Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, in Rocker Nation. 'Tis I, your host, Corben Simons, and to my right, like always, joined by Parker Brown, Director of Social Media Marketing. Parker, thank you for always coming on. It is lovely having you.
Kind of a pain in the ass at this point. I don't like doing this. Just kidding. It's always great coming out with you, Corben.
It is. It's always a fun time. We won't be talking about a lot of fun games necessarily during the recap, but we are live in the Meyer Party Suite, a suite that you guys can get if you ever want to come out to Big Boy Arena. I'm about to say Little Caesars Arena for some reason there. I got Red Wings on my mind. But yeah, it is a beautiful suite. I mean, I wish we could show you the amenities of it, but that's why you got to come down, get it, and host a little party here or whatnot. But I will be having the recap like always. We have an interview, a very fun one, and then of course we'll be ending with the previewing this upcoming weekend's games. So let's start off with this past weekend's games. The Rockers did lose the 3-game series against the Columbus River Dragons with a record of 1-2. Friday night, we're not going to talk about that a lot. We won't. It was an 8-0 loss. I guess we'll just leave it at there. Necessarily, yeah. It just wasn't, necessarily a top-notch match. But the next day on Saturday, that's when they said, all right, you can have your 8-0 win from Friday. We are going to take a 5-4 victory, which was absolutely huge. It had ended the River Dragons' 16-game win streak. I know that Parker and I were kind of predicting when their win streak was going to end. At the time, it was 15. Of course, winning on Friday grew it to 16. I think I may have said on Saturday. I think Parker may have said on Sunday. But nonetheless, they killed the winning streak for the River Dragons in an all-round team performance. A crucial first period, in my opinion, that I took away from it, which ended in a score of 2-0. All 3 stars of the games were all Rockers. The third being Danny Vanderweel with 1 point. He had 1 assist. The second being Josh Colton, who had 3 points, all those being 3 assists, just an all-around passing game from Josh. And the first star being TJ Delaney with 2 points, all those being 2 goals. And yeah, it was just, from the start, it was to have a 2-0 period, first period, in comparison to how the game from the previous day had went. It was just absolutely big. It helped the Rockers out tremendously, helped the vibes out. Goals were scored by, of course, as I said, TJ Delaney, 2 goals, and followed by Nick Gullo, TJ Sneath, and Scott Coash. Assisted from Josh Colton, like I said, with 3. Jonathan Giuliano with 2. Another 2-point game from Jonathan Giuliano, which is absolutely big. Nick Gullo, Danny Vanderweel, Pavel Spinsov, and Devon Field, who in my predictions last week I had said for it to be a player to keep your eye out on. So it's nice to see him, getting in the stat books there and whatnot, and helping out in that regard in terms of my predictions, of course. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely a little back and forth game to the end there. I don't have the exact period by period scoring of it, but towards the end there, I got a little bit nervous there. I cannot lie. I was down in the Zamboni tunnel, one of them, because of course we have 2 on either side of the rink, and I want to say at the time it was about 5-4. The Rockers did hold a 5-3 lead, and then of course the River Dragons did get a goal there towards the end. And then it was kind of like a little bit nerve-wracking. Like, is Columbus going to be taking the wheel over here? Are we going to be heading into OT momentarily? But thankfully, that was not the case at all. Just great defensive stop after defensive stop towards the end, even with the goalie out Columbus had. Devon Fields was, I'm pretty sure at the time, he was out due to a penalty. And then when he came back in, it just was lights out. It was just all Rockers from there on out within the last minute or so. The place was rocking. All the fans, it didn't matter where you were sitting in, just the vibes were absolutely high. Parker, give us your thoughts on how you thought that this past Saturday's 5-4 win went.
I think it's good to kind of put your stamp on the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't win the series this weekend, even though there are things that just happened this weekend that we really weren't excited about. But I think overall, we should be proud of the 1 win. We won 5-1 against the best team in an FPHL.
Yes.
And that goes a long way. And a lot of people were doubting us going into this week. And our prediction, we weren't expecting to sweep. We weren't like you and I specifically weren't expecting to sweep.
We knew the winning streak was going to be over, though. We knew Rockers were going to get theirs eventually this past weekend.
But, I think Saturday was such a good testament to how hard these guys play, how much different of a team they are from last year to this year. So, that's really it.
And I think to kind of add on to that as well, Saturday also proved, the learning curves that this team can take from just a day-to-day basis, having an 8-0 loss, my apologies, and then winning the next night. Obviously, if you were there and if you watched Friday's game at all, it was just kind of a little sluggish, a little slow. We didn't know if it was the weekend rust getting off the team. But like I said, Saturday, 2-0 off the bat in the first period. And then from there on out, the River Dragons, they did, kind of march back at times. But it was kind of like how I mentioned in terms of the one game against Binghamton about a couple weekends ago, where I said, the Rockers, had everything going, but Binghamton had the answers. That's kind of how it was on Saturday night's game, but a little flip-flop. Rockers had the answers. They just knew how to get it done. They wanted to. And, overall, this type of series reminds me about how, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Rockers still had 4 games against Columbus remaining in the season.
3 of them away, 1 of them home.
Yeah, and this series just kind of reminded me about how, the season necessarily started against Binghamton, You just kind of got to learn the team, learn how they're doing it or whatever, because obviously this past weekend was the first time we did see Columbus this season, to where, once you have their number, then you're like, okay, now I know exactly how to handle you and whatnot. But it was just an electric night all around. The vibes, like I said, I was down in the Zamboni tunnel when the final buzzer went off, and the whole place was just up in arms, going crazy and whatnot. And then heading into Sunday, of course, not a win, but nonetheless, a 6-3 loss. They did tie it up in the first. The River Dragons came up, and then Rockers said, all right, we'll make it 1-1. But ever since then, the River Dragons had it their way, just like BK. Out of all the stars of the game, we only had one, and it was the third star, George Holt, with 1 point, that being a goal. Other goals were scored by Jamison Milam and Declan Conway. An assist from TJ Sneath, Tim Delaney, Pavel Spinsov, Jonathan Giuliano, Scott Koash, and Nick Gullo. Is what it is with that, but it's kind of like we said, when you're going up against the best team in the league, you're going to have a little bit of learning moments.
Yeah. And you want to know a fun fact?
Of course.
Or a fun statistic about George Holt?
Of course.
He scored 2 goals this season. Those 2 goals have come against the 2 top teams in both divisions.
That's a man right there that just knows how to step up to the plate when it matters, when it matters most.
Yeah, honestly.
Or whatever. Maybe I'll remember that for predictions come close towards playoff time,
I can even read you off some more. Courtesy of Ben. Shout out to you, Ben. We appreciate all your hard work on the broadcast. So, Declan Conway's goal on Sunday snapped an 8-game scoring drought. George Holt, I already mentioned that. Since coming off IR, Danny Vanderbilt has 3 points in 5 games. Mm-hmm. In the last 9 games, Scott Koash has earned 12 points and has earned a point in 8 of those games.
Yeah.
Tim Delaney,
he's been on a tear.
Earned his 2nd career point, snapping a 12-game drought. And speaking about TJ Sneath, I believe you were just talking about him,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Since returning from IR, TJ Sneath has 4 points in 5 games.
4 points in 5 games. And that's the thing to where, it makes me, even in the losses, it makes me even more excited about watching this team, especially heading towards the playoffs in the coming months, because you can get production anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to rely on your heavy hitters. It's not like, when the heavy hitters are down, you kind of have to, it's people coming up. It's everywhere. Everywhere you look, you will just get top-notch play.
And even Josh Colden, who broke 150 career points.
Yes, I did see that.
On Saturday. So, that's a guy that's been really productive for the Rockers this year. And we can go back to TJ Sneath. Ben even told me this. Sneath is also averaging a point a game, which is 18 points in 18 games. He's had 18 points in 18 games.
It's efficiency. It's efficiency all around, and you can even see that, within their record. After 41 games played, their record currently stands as 18-14-4, 4-1. Second in the Empire, 20 points behind Binghamton, and now only 7 points behind third place in the Empire division of Danbury. They're keeping a decent margin, but they're just staying there. They're staying in the mix, and they're definitely, the the word is getting around the league that, the Rockers on any given night are not a team that you want to go up against necessarily, because we saw what they did against Binghamton at home a couple weekends ago, and now you see what they're doing against literally the best team in the league. And I don't necessarily know if this guy will be watching because he was a Columbus fan, but heading into Saturday, he was kind of, chirping in my ear a little bit as I was walking around the concourse, and I just told him, I was just like, well, we'll see. I was just like, there's 2 games left. There's a lot of time for, the Rockers to, shock the nation a little bit. And they did just that. Which was kind of funny because I knew exactly where he was sitting. So after any, Rockers goal during Saturday's game, I was kind of, eyeing him over there, seeing how his reaction was necessarily. Because we keep receipts around here. We really do. But yeah, just overall, not the weekend that we intended to go, but I think in general, there's a lot of positives that you can pull from it nonetheless. And yeah, obviously we'll be previewing this upcoming weekend with only a 2-game series at home at Big Boy Arena. So come on down in this suite where Parker and I are currently at, or even the other ones across the way there if you can see it on any of our views. But I will be having a nice interview coming up, so you guys definitely want to stay for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now is the interview portion of the episode. I am joined by Nick Gullo. Nick, thank you for joining us on the show. Cannot
super stoked to be here. Thanks, fellas. Let's do this thing.
No problem. So obviously, let's just get into it. You have been with the Rockers for only about 10 games or so, and you have made an immediate impact real quick. Just a couple stats for the fans out there who don't know. 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in all. And obviously, aside from the statistics, your impact goes above and beyond that. How much did it mean to kind of hit the ground running right as you started?
I think anytime you join a team, right, you want to be influential right away. Like, you want to get in there. You want to let the boys know, like, hey, I'm here. So I was very fortunate enough to have some success right away. I think mentally, too, as a player, you don't want that burden on your shoulders. So being able to kind of, get comfortable with my teammates, get comfortable with everything, and have some success right away and help the team win was definitely awesome. It was huge for sure.
Yeah, and obviously to kind of piggyback onto that immediate impact, you had scored a goal, the first goal as a Rocker in your second game. Obviously, that's something to where some players takes a little bit longer, this, that. So how did it feel to kind of get that monkey off your back in a sense?
Yeah, like I was saying, you want to get it out of the way, right? So it's not looming over you and you have always that constant rain cloud, I guess. It was cool because I got to go back to, I did it in Watertown. I'm from New York, so my home state, and I had some family in the stands, so it was pretty cool to get that out of the way, so I can just play hockey, right? And they're there to see it, and got us on the board right away too, and you just went from there. So for sure, it's good to get it out of the way, because you just don't want it looming over you, like I said.
Yeah, and have you, anytime you've joined a new team, or obviously had your first couple games with a new team, has there ever been like that moment where you kind of like feel that cloud at times?
Yeah, I think for sure, no matter what sport or every time you go to a new team, I think there's always going to be that little what ifs, and are you going to gel? Is the coaching style going to be good for you? So yeah, I think we were on the road too, like I said, and I think there's no better way to bond with your teammates than to go on a road trip and to be with meals with them, or be mingling in the hotel or whatever it is that you do. So I think that kind of got those first week jitters, if you can call them, out of the way, and after that it just kind of been rolling with it, been rocking on. So
good pun there.
Thank you.
So which like players around the team kind of put you under their wing and kind of help you, figure yourself out with it?
I don't know if this really counts, but I've known Scotty Koash for a couple years, so obviously him and I kind of bonded right away, and he kind of showed me the ropes a little bit. But a new player, a new face that I didn't know at all was Roman. I live with Roman, and we bonded over, he has my number. I would have chose 61 if it wasn't for him, but we'll get to that. And so he kind of just made me feel welcome, kind of guided me along, showed me the little nuances of what the team does here, and something as small as like how gear gets put in the locker room, or just kind of game day travel, and obviously being around, I know that each team has little different specifics particular to their own organization, so just being able to flow into that pretty fluently and having guys kind of help you along, and those two definitely did a big part. And obviously now knowing everybody, they're all doing it or they have done it, but that first kind of reaction was those two for sure.
And in general, too, I remember Parker had mentioned on a previous episode, it was very early on in your tenure and with the Rockers, and you were going around doing, certain, communal events, giving back to the fans or whatnot. So in general, what does it mean to do just that?
Well, I think stuff like that is, honestly, it's the definition of being a pro. And again, whatever sport you're in, being a pro is a 24/7 job. It's not always what you do on the ice. It's how you take care of your body, right? Doing the right things off the ice. The cliche answers that are cliche because they're true. So when it comes to media events or team events or, public events, sometimes guys would rather just relax at home, but that stuff is so important. And I remember my parents telling me this growing up is always give everybody, some of your time or sign every autograph, because to them you're a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And to us, right, we just think we're going to X's and O's and doing X's and O's, but you don't understand sometimes that when you do those community events, especially as somebody who's new to the area, and I didn't know anything about Fraser, just getting yourself out there and getting back and having a 5-second or 5-minute conversation with somebody can make their whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think, that's a huge part for me anyways, and I look forward to doing that. I try to do all the team events if possible, and just because I like to, help out the community and give back to the community, and I think that's a huge, huge part of it, especially not only at the NHL, but at the minor league level as well.
Oh, yeah, because obviously, you got the kids wearing your jerseys and whatnot.
Which is the most humbling thing ever.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw my jersey in the stands, I was like, that's my name. The jersey. I was like, what?
Was it a weird feeling?
Yes, and it was a humbling feeling. It was a weird feeling. It was also, I was very proud of myself too, in a non cocky way. It's just I remember growing up and wearing my favorite players' jerseys, and now it's nice to see somebody else, I guess, recognize the hard work and effort you're putting in, and for you personally, it's like, wow, you know what, you are reaping some benefits here, and to don't get down, just keep doing your thing because it's working.
Yeah. And, around the locker room, you have a great energy that you possess within you. You always got a smile on your face, always joking around with the other guys and whatnot, or even just the personnel up in the front office like us, like Parker and I and whoever. Obviously, only 10 games, you've got yourself familiar with the team, but of course still on the newer side of things. Do you think that, it was a little kind of, were you a little nervous about how you would blend in necessarily at first?
Yeah, again, I think you're always those you can't help those but have those thoughts creep into the back of your head.
Mm-hmm.
But to kind of build off being a pro, this is my fourth dressing room this year between Elmira and the Fed and Quad and City and Knoxville and the SP and now here. And hockey's such a small community as well. Somebody in every team, or somebody knows one of your best friends. So yeah, you always worry, but it's such a special sport, and there's so many special players in this game that it gets easy pretty quickly.
Yeah.
One joke or one fall on the ice or just something, and you said, boys start hooting and hollering, and then it's like you've been here all year.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, I've been here for 10 games, not too long, but it's I know stories that happened in November when I wasn't even here, and I feel like I was there.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty cool, and I think it shows the type of guys you have in our dressing room here, and just the beauty of this sport and the people that are in this game.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of Elmira, before you had joined them, you had played in Danville for a bit within the SPHL for some time. And obviously, before coming to the Rockers, there was that gap where you were in the SPHL, as I had mentioned. So obviously you had some time in both. But how did it feel, the adjustments of going from one league to another and then back?
Mm-hmm. I think I can speak for most players of any level. They want to keep climbing that hockey ladder to those higher levels. I want to keep climbing that ladder. I'm super happy and fortunate I landed here, but down the road I would love to get back to that level. I think when you go to a different team or go to a different level, like you mentioned, I think at one level you may be a goal scorer and a power play guy. Well, at that level they might be looking at you as a defensive shutdown center and a penalty kill guy. So yes, it's tough to switch leagues because obviously the higher you go, the better it is. But I think more so it's what role they're expecting you to play at that level. Do they convey that to you is going to, kind of show your success as well.
Yeah.
I think, again, I'd played already at that, in terms of this year, I'd already played a year at the Southern Pro League, and obviously it's still a change, but I kind of knew what was going on. So I loved my time there. I had a great experience. But yeah, you just have to find what they're looking for and simplify almost a little bit. And then obviously coming here, I'm familiar with the league, but I'm not familiar with the team. So you find your niches and where you're gonna fit in, and so far I've had some success right off the hop here, fortunately, and so I think that answers your question kind of.
Oh, so. Most definitely, yeah. And to kind of piggyback on you mentioning, kind of knowing a player knowing their role or whatever, what do you think is more important for a player in any sport necessarily aside from hockey? Just kind of being you and showing out your game to the fullest extent, or kind of knowing your role? Because obviously at times, you might be so good in this aspect, but they just need you over here.
Correct. And I think, any sport, right, that's the tough part. Sometimes you might not be happy about it, and this is something I tell myself to this day is try and understand where they're coming from or try and adapt to that spot, because maybe one, that'll get you back to where your strengths are, or two, maybe you're going to unlock something you didn't know you had, and now you become even more of a well-rounded player.
Yeah.
I think that goes into anything. Take sports and hockey aside, just being a well-rounded human being, like being a good person.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's a big thing, and keep your mind open to all aspects, even if you're not stoked about it at first. And hey, you know what? Maybe it isn't for you, right? Maybe it was trial and error, and this one happened to be an error, but at least go in with an open mind and try, because it may end up being more beneficial from you. But again, right, it's easier to sit here and tell you that, whereas when players are on the ice or on a bench and, right, heat of the moment, right, it might be a little more frustrating, but once you get to reflect and think about it, I think that's the big take-home from there, and to try and learn and adapt and just add another tool to your tool belt.
Now, I have two questions for you until we get to the get-to-know/fun ones that I always bring for every player that has been interviewed so far. Okay. First question, what is your favorite aspect about being a Motor City Rocker?
This is a little, I don't know what's out there. I love the fact that there's Little Caesars everywhere.
Little Caesars fan,
yeah, I'm
okay.
a big Little Caesars fan. I know it's like fast food pizza, and I'm from New York, so I'm spoiled with good New York pizza, but big Crazy Bread guy. Family would always take me there as a kid, and I didn't really know much about here, and every corner you look on, there's a Little Caesars. So
you guys have none out there in New York?
We do, but it's just like
not like how it is
in New York. You can turn a corner and there's a Dunkin' and a Starbucks. Here, you turn a corner, there's a White Castle and a Little Caesars. So
yeah, interesting. And obviously, big Crazy Bread fan, but you tried their Italian cheese bread, I assume?
I did, love it, but I'm partial to my Crazy Bread. So
it's elite in its own way. Necessarily,
it is.
It kind of sucks, because I've been told that years ago, before I was even born, like Crazy Bread used to be like long, and now obviously it kind of comes.
It shrunk a little bit.
Yeah, it comes in.
That might have been relative to how big we were as kids, though, right? We might have thought it was way bigger too. So,
well, obviously, you had mentioned your number being 61 earlier, that Roman wears, but why number 94?
Showing my age, I'm a 94 birth year, so it was kind of an easy transition. I was 16 growing up because my favorite player, and then when I got a little older, 61 was my favorite player. I've worn it ever since if I have the opportunity, but I'm not going to come in and make a guy give up his number. And 94 was available when I talked to Kaiser, our equipment manager, and easy decision from there. So I've worn it before. I've liked it. I like higher numbers. I think they're cool. So, that was definitely an easy one for me.
All right, so now we're going to get into the get-to-know/fun ones. We'll kind of rattle off a couple here, and we'll get you out of here. Your hometown is Penfield, New York.
Correct.
Northern Western, however you want to say it. What has been your favorite thing to do and kind of favorite city to visit?
So Penfield's a suburb of Rochester, New York. So that's a city I grew up, so might be biased, but Rochester is my favorite.
Yeah.
city. Buffalo is about an hour down the road to the west a little bit, so that's your bigger city. But Rochester's still a big city as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, when they think of New York, they just think of the city, and I get that. But I'm like 6-7 hours north of the city. I'm close to Buffalo. I'm close to Canada. Like, I can go to Niagara Falls in like an hour and a half, and it's a day trip. And and to me, it's just cool, like water going over rocks. And some people travel the world for it. But where we live, we have this thing called the Finger Lakes, and from what I've understood, it's kind of like northern Michigan with like cabins and wineries and stuff. So I've been fortunate enough to have family or family friends with like lake houses or boats. So in the summer, when I'm done working and training and not golfing, I'll head on down to the lake and boat and crush a couple wineries while I'm down there. And so I think that's a pretty cool thing about where I live. Love doing that. And I'm not much of a hiking guy, a little bit, but if you go up to like the Adirondacks near Lake Placid and up in that area, there's a ton of hiking trails up there. I haven't gotten to do that. Like, I like trail walking, but not so much the hiking up mountains yet. But so there's a bit of a different demographic, or you can just go get in the chaos of the city down south. So
I'm going to group this question kind of into one: New York style pizza and the buffalo wings. So obviously Buffalo, from where you live, is only about an hour and some change away. What are your thoughts on both?
Okay, my pizza's got to be a nice New York thin crust, right? I want to bend this thing when I eat
like
it.
A taco.
Right? I like a taco. Yep. Like, I want it to fold. Like I want to have that cheese pull. Like I don't mind. Like, I've been understood there's a Detroit deep dish, which I haven't had yet. I'm only familiar with the Chicago deep dish.
Yeah.
But it needs to be thin. I need to be able to almost break it, like you said, a taco.
Oh yeah.
So that, and then I guess in terms of buffalo wings, what I like is, and again, right, it's all over New York, Western New York, so you get so many places, is a crunch factor. Like, I want my wing to be crunchy, not breaded, like deep fried, but like crunchy. And then I'm not a huge fan of like putting a ton of sauce on it. Like, I think that takes it away. You're hiding.
So it's like the perfect ratio.
Yeah, nice little ratio. Nice little buffalo ratio, and to where you're not like it's a soggy wing and your hands aren't dripping.
Yeah.
So my favorite place is TK's Pizzeria in my hometown. Shout out TK's.
Okay.
You guys are awesome. Best pizza, best wings. And I've been to all the places in Buffalo, but this is in Rochester. So if you're ever in Western New York, check out TK's. Unreal. Love the boys there. They do a great job.
Interesting. Definitely, if I ever get out there, I'll definitely have to try that under your good grace there.
We'll treat the boys to a good time.
And obviously a couple more, and then we'll get you out once again. Thank you. Great interview.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Always.
Appreciate it. Love it. Been having a blast.
And of course, we'll have you back on, of course, before the season's over and whatnot. Favorite hockey team growing up, which I assume is the Sabres because of Buffalo, but obviously just got to make sure. And who are a couple of your favorite players to watch?
So unfortunately, it is the Sabres. We haven't been too hot lately, but so when I was like 4 years old, I loved Pat LaFontaine, captain of the Sabres, wore number 16, which is why I wore number 16. As I got a little older, Maxim Afinogenov, a Russian player, he was my favorite player. He wore 61, which is why I'm partial to 61. I don't know. I just loved how he played, and I tried to model my game after it. He was just so fast and explosive and dynamic, and I tried to model my game as a kid after that. I'd wear my gear like how he did. And again, growing up a little bit now, let's talk. When I'm a teenager, Nathan Gerbe is a Michigan native, a Michigander, as I've been told here. And he's a little guy like myself, so obviously I looked up to, if he could do it, I could do it, and I was fortunate enough to, he played for Buffalo, so I got to skate with him a little bit. And I would say now, in today's current game, obviously you have your McDavids and your McKinnons, your Crosbys, like guys like that, but to me it's somebody like Alexander Barkov with the Panthers. He's a dominant center, but he plays the game all 200 feet. He's a right. It's more than just the goals and the offensive stats. He's defensively commanding in his own zone, or somebody like Anze Kopitar with the Kings. Like, to me, I want to mold my game after that, and I really enjoy watching them play the full 200-foot game. Not that those other guys don't, but to me, those are two guys that I definitely like right now and pay attention to when they play at night.
Okay. And final one, and we'll get you out of here with this. In general, it can be whether you've seen it, experienced it, whatever. Favorite hockey moment?
Favorite hockey moment? One that definitely hits home is my first professional game.
Okay.
I think that's going to be a lot of people's answers. That was definitely emotional and a super important moment in my life. But I guess if you want to talk like on a more fun, lighthearted note, it was a summer tournament, Portland, Maine. Didn't mean anything. It was just something fun to do in the summer. I was like 12 or 13 years old. We went championship game, double overtime. I scored the goal to win the championship. So that was pretty cool. That's a fun one. So I guess it's a toss-up between that or first professional game, and I don't think that's a really wrong answer with either one of them. So
no. I mean, two big monumental moments.
Two huge
remember.
moments, right? One is a kid, and you're having fun, and sometimes we forget that it's a game, and it is fun, right? We get wrapped up, and I understand it's our job, but you look back at those moments, and even now, right, like, it's a game, and to have fun with it and embrace all that stuff. So I think that's important, and those are definitely two of my biggest moments in the game thus far anyways. Maybe winning a championship with Motor City this year will take that to the top. But
might be number one after that.
Stay tuned for that the next couple months here.
Yeah, so thank you, Nick. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we'll definitely get you on pretty soon. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is Nick Gullo right there. And coming up, Parker and I will be previewing this upcoming weekend's games. You do not want to miss that. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a great interview that I just had with Nick Gullo. Of course, we'll have him on soon. And who knows about that little wing eating competition? We'll see about that in the future there. But now, to wrap it up, Parker and I will preview this upcoming 2-game home series at Big Boy Arena. Get your tickets now against the Blue Ridge Bobcats. The last series that we had gone up against them wasn't too long ago. I want to say within the last month or so. We won the series 2-1. Pretty sure we won that Friday, Saturday, and lost on that Sunday or whatever, vice versa. But nonetheless, we came out with the dub. A current head-to-head record of 4-3. And honestly, Parker, I would deem these two as must-wins because looking at the future schedule for the Motor City Rockers, I'll say there's definitely some, obstacles, some road bumps around the way. I got 4 against Columbus, a couple against Binghamton, if I'm not mistaken, a lot against Port Huron to finish it off as well. I'm pretty sure they're our last series or whatever. But heading into this game, I think that I would deem these two as must-wins.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Blue Ridge is a new team this year, so being able to get, their record's not great this year, but they got a lot of good guys on that team that they can build the future towards. I think they could easily win these two games. Our record against them might not seem like we're the dominant team, but you got to think when we also played them, we had Vandy out, we had a couple guys out in Quad City.
Yeah.
So, I think now is going to be a little bit of a different environment for Blue Ridge to play against us.
Yeah.
So I think relatively we should be the dominant team in that game. I don't think, honestly, there should be no excuses, no reasons that we lose these two games, but, stuff happens.
Oh, yeah, and obviously, with the head-to-head record, being just about near 500 or whatever at 4-3. But to me, I just view it, just as must-wins, of course, as I said, just, kind of schedule watching, as the kids call it these days, just looking at who's next, knowing that, literally 4 straight games against Columbus, like I had mentioned. I don't exactly remember how many against Binghamton, but I know that there's, of course, a couple to finish off the season. And obviously, 20 points behind Binghamton, of course, we want to cut that down. And only being 7 points out of Danbury right now, obviously, they're kind of, inching up a little bit closer. 7 points is still a decent margin, but of course, any team can pick that up.
They had a huge win on Saturday, they beat Elmira 10-4.
Yeah, which was huge for them right there. And obviously, it puts them in a good position to kind of, they're looking good for the playoffs as well. But of course, if you can get higher up in the seedings, that's, better than anything else.
Well, the hope is that we continue to win and Danbury kind of stays in that third spot.
Yeah.
Because if Danbury moves up, then we lose home field advantage or home ice advantage. Because right now, as the playoffs are set, we'd head to Danbury for 1 game and then come back here for 2. So I just don't know. I don't know if we'd want. Personally, I'd rather be home instead of in Danbury for 2 games. But,
oh yeah, and it always beats playing in your own home arena, which obviously the Rockers have proven. I mean, think back to the Binghamton. That was the main thing we always talked about. They always played a bunch of games on the road. They come here, and look what happens then, you know. The vibe switches a little bit.
Well, it's not even that. I think Danbury is very unique. They have a very unique fan base.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of the Danbury Trashers.
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah.
But that's the same rink they played in. It's pretty much the same fans that went from the Trashers now to the Hat Tricks.
Yeah.
So, very chaotic.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if that's somewhere I'd personally want to go after, especially the last game we played there. What happened? But we had to at least play one game there so far. We're inching really close to clinching. Being so close to clinching, I'd rather us have 2 games home than 2 games away, because again, Danbury fans are loud. And when they get loud, it's a different environment. We did win 1 out of the 2 games we played there already this season, but
anything can happen.
Yeah, playoff hockey is completely different.
Oh, yeah. And so you guys definitely do not want to miss that at all. So come on down, bring the noise, bring the energy. And Parker, we have a special night this upcoming Saturday, I believe.
Well, Saturday's education night, so we're wanting to celebrate all people, all educators, all students, principals, vice principals, secretaries, anybody that works in a school. We want to bring you out. We want to make sure that you are acknowledged for all the hard work and dedication to educating the next generation. I know personally I wouldn't be where I am today with some of the teachers I had in my past. Mm-hmm. So we want to obviously celebrate those who kind of shape the minds of the youth.
Yeah.
So there's a ticket deal that goes on. $10 for all. I gotta stop. $10 for all adults, $8 for all kids 12 and under. So be sure to kind of jump on that. It's some of the cheapest tickets we've had all year. We also have a post-game skate that night. So basically what involves a post-game skate. You get to go to the front desk. Rental skates are $2 that night. So go over there, shove a couple dollars on the desk, and you get your rental skates, and you can skate on the ice with the Motor City Rockers players. So you get to talk to them, ask about life, ask them for advice, hockey advice, ask for an autograph,
or even just
get a picture, nice selfie,
Yeah, just shoot the stuff with them,
Exactly, just get to know who these guys are, and I think that's something that we do this league does that's very unique to other leagues. You're not going to be able to go skate around with Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat, but you'll be able to come to a Rockers game and skate around with Danny Vanderweel, Nick Gullo, all the great guys that have been this show, and many more faces we hope to bring on later. But post-game skate's one of the times where the fans actually get the chance to be personal with the players. So if I'm a season ticket holder, if I'm just a person that got tickets and wants to just randomly come to game, if you don't know how to skate, obviously there are people there that know how to skate that can also help you. I wouldn't call myself the greatest skater, but I can move. But it's just a great opportunity, not just for adults, but for kids too that love the sport of hockey. So why not come down March 1st and 2nd? You can come down to both while you're at it. But this weekend's pretty fun, so I'm excited to see a bunch of your friendly faces there.
Yeah, and and even still of course you can skate with the players, but you can even see our lovely faces too and chat.
I don't know if I'll wear skates this time. Last time I wore
skates. I'll be off to the side probably in the tunnel. I don't know how to skate like that. But yeah, great weekend coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Some must-win games. Bring the energy, bring your faces, and of course bring your skates or even your rentals too. $2, remind you that, on Saturday, which will be also education night. And that is the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Episode number 5. I can now count as many episodes we have for this show on one hand, so that's impressive right there.
You could, the last time.
That is true. I guess it fills up one hand now. Now I need a second come time next week. So we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there with a little blonde moment from me. But thank you for tuning. Make sure, however you're listening, like, subscribe, 5-star, you name it. Just do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. And I will see you next week. Peace.